What's going on, ETHMexico? How are y'all? Super excited to be kicking this off. As long as we can fix that accent. Okay. Super excited to be kicking this off. A little bit about me. My name is Kevin Jones. You might see me running around here. I'm actually the photographer for the event as well. Do a lot of fun stuff, but I'm also a developer. You can follow me pretty much with this QR code. It'll bring up my contact and all my socials. Full-time job, I work for a Web 2.0 company called NGINX. You guys may have heard of it before. But I'm also a developer advocate for Scaffold ETH. And that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about. It's basically a toolkit for prototyping and building on Ethereum quickly. I also I started a nonprofit for blockchain education. I also teach a kind of a Solidity course through a company called Growek. And yeah, again, I'm a photographer and filmmaker. So if you want your picture taken, come find me later. Pretty much, Scaffold ETH is an open source toolkit. It's available on GitHub. If you do a search for Google for Scaffold ETH, first thing that's going to come up is the GitHub link. It's basically a collection of different tools that you're going to utilize to essentially get up and running with a development environment to build on Ethereum, right? Hard hat, React, some hooks, pretty much all the plumbing you need to be able to quickly deploy, quickly test your smart contracts, and quickly kind of build and prototype applications. So it's perfect for hackathons or, basically trying to create prototypes really quickly. There's been tons of other projects that have actually utilized Scaffold ETH. Even the actual Build Guild, which is what I'm a member of, is using Scaffold ETH as well. There's also what's called Speedrun Ethereum, which is kind of like this way to do challenges and go through and learn about how to program and how to build smart contracts and how to build dApps. But there's been lots of other successful applications that are built on Scaffold ETH. So it's definitely worth checking out. Eventually, once you start messing around with Scaffold ETH, you'll check it out. You build some dApps. You'll start messing around and toying around with things like Solidity by Example, right? So you might go to Solidity by Example and start kind of like pasting, stuff from Solidity by Example into your smart contract. Deploy those changes. You can do things like define primitive data types, define variables, start to learn Solidity, right? Like deep dive into Solidity and how it works. But eventually, if you want to get deeper and you want to test your skills, you'll go to Speedrun Ethereum. Speedrun Ethereum is it's this kind of experience that you go through and you go through these challenges. So like the first one is you actually build an NFT. It's a simple NFT example. Then you build a DEX, a decentralized staking application. You build a token vendor, a dice game. And then eventually you actually become a part of the Build Guild. And the Build Guild is this basically, like I said, a collection of developers that want to build and build on Ethereum. So definitely check that out. That's my quick shill about Speedrun Ethereum. Everything you need to know about Scaffold ETH is pretty much available here. So if you guys scan this, it'll give you the link to the GitHub. It'll give you the link to Build Guild, Speedrun Ethereum, the Twitter that you can follow. Pretty much everything is available here. And if you guys have any questions or anything like that, I'm just going to throw my info again. If anyone wants to connect with me, I'll be running around, happy to help you guys. But anyone that's at home wants to connect on my socials, please do so. What does the architecture look like? So this is kind of like a real rough look at how it's set up. Scaffold ETH uses Yarn. So the only dependencies really on your machine is going to have Git to be able to check out the repository, Yarn to orchestrate and run some commands to get up and running and to kind of do things like deploy. If you're not familiar with Yarn, it's basically like a package manager, but it also has this cool scripting functionality where you can like write special Yarn commands to execute commands from other different applications. So it's really great for like toolkits because you can just make all these Yarn commands to do everything you need. And the developer like yourself don't really need to understand what's going on in the background. You just need to know like, okay, Yarn start is going to spin up my React app. Yarn chain is going to spin up my hard hat node. Yarn deploy is going to deploy my changes. So to get up and running, it's super easy. Go to the GitHub, check out the repository, right? Do a Yarn install. The Yarn install is like, kind of like going to install the dependencies, right? Everything you need to get up and running. After that's done, then you're going to do Yarn chain to spin up your hard hat node. Then you're going to do a Yarn start to spin up React, because we use React, and then do a Yarn deploy to deploy your smart contract. So what does that look like? Let's just go right into demo mode here. So I've basically gone ahead and I've already kind of checked out the repository. So hopefully you guys can see this out there. I've gone ahead, checked it out, and I've already also done the yarn install. But in case you need to install any dependencies, you'll need to make sure that you do that. Make sure you're using the newest version of Yarn Package Manager. There's like an old version of Yarn. Make sure you're using the newest version of Yarn Package Manager. Make sure that you have Node.js installed on your machine. I think it's 16 or above. Do the Yarn install, you're good to go. All you gotta do next is just do a Yarn chain, okay? So Yarn chain is gonna essentially spin up a copy of Hardhat running on localhost, available, and that's it. You're ready to go. You have a blockchain set up, right? So everything you do in Scaffold ETH basically revolves around like kind of a couple windows open. You keep the Hardhat chain open, and that just is always running. That's kind of doing your EVM kind of simulation, right? And then you open up a new window, go to the same directory, and do a yarn start. That's going to spin up React. React takes a little while to first get up and running, so that's going to, excuse me, take about a minute. So we'll come back to that. And then what you're going to do is just open a third window. And the third one is really the one you're mainly going to be utilizing to do your deploys. So all you got to do is do a yarn deploy. So what that's going to do is it's going to take there's an existing smart contract. It's kind of like a hello world smart contract that has everything you need to kind of just understand how basics of a smart contract works. So we can see that it deployed successfully after I did the deploy. And we can also see that where it was deployed to, we can see how much gas was used, which is useful if you're trying to like optimize for gas during your deployment. And then you can also see that it published a subgraph. So if you're into the graph or you're familiar with GraphQL APIs, subgraph is basically a GraphQL API for all of your events. So you can actually use that. And that's also comes with Scaffold ETH as well. You have to do some Docker stuff, but it's available for you there. So during the deploy, that's taken care of. So now we have Scaffold ETH up and running. We've done the deploy. We've got our UI here. So real basic kind of run through real quickly. You'll see there's some tabs basically in the UI. The first tab is where you're going to build out your app, like your app. So imagine it's like an app within Scaffold ETH, which is an app, right? So you're going to start building. There's a special directory structure I'll show you where you go there and edit that home.jsx file, and that's where you can start building your app. But all the other stuff for like connecting your wallet and getting up and running with Scaffold ETH, as far as developing and testing, is already set up. So you don't have to worry about like, it uses Ethers.js, so that's already piped up. It's got this burner wallet in the top right corner, you'll notice. So you could connect to like MetaMask, but if you don't want to mess with MetaMask, you can just use the burner wallets that come with Scaffold ETH. And it's just basically an in-browser wallet. So what happens is you get this kind of random generated mnemonic inside the browser, and then you're able to start transacting right away. So I can just come over here to debug contracts, and I can see the functions of my smart contract. So before we get into that, let's open up text editor with the directory structure, so I can just give you guys like a real kind of overlook on what it looks like. So this might be hard to see for you guys, and I'm not sure if I can zoom it in, but I can just walk you guys through it. So there's a packages folder. Inside the packages folder, there's really two places you'll be working mostly: Hardhat folder and in the React app folder. Okay, React app obviously is everything with the front end. Hardhat is everything with the back end, right? So inside this contracts folder, inside Hardhat, is that hello world smart contract. It's just a real basic smart contract. What it does is sets the version of Solidity we're going to use with the Pragma. We import what's called Hardhat console, which is so we can print out logs to the Hardhat console if we need to see what's going on during the deploy or during a transaction. And then the smart contract is called your contract. And we can see that there's a set purpose event. And we can see that there's a string defined, like a variable named purpose. And we can also see that the constructor is empty, so we're not doing anything fancy during the deploy. And then we just have this basic function. And the function just is allowing us to change that variable that we've set there. So we can test it out. We've already deployed our changes, so we can actually test that and see what that looks like. So you'll notice if I try to come over here and I say like ETHMexico, like that, try to hit send. it's going to tell me I don't have any money. I don't have any funds. I can't, my account's at zero. So all I got to do is click this little thing, grab funds from the faucet, and then instantly it's going to take money, basically Ether, from the hard hat instance, put it into my browser wallet. So now I can operate. Now I can send a transaction, and we can see that I updated the purpose. So what's cool about Scaffold ETH is it's giving you your contract in this UI, so you can start testing kind of your assumptions and your ability to transact in the application. So we can see the contract's there. We can see that it doesn't have any value. We can see its address. We can see that purpose. But now we can kind of start toying around and changing some things. So first, let me minimize this, and let me go back over here. And actually, let's change some things. Let's first of all, let's just do something silly like set an owner variable. So we could say like address public owner equals, and then we can grab our address from the browser, which is this one, right? And then we can set that in there, save that, and then we can come over here and just do a redeploy. Now, if you've made a change to your smart contract, you can just do deploy. If you didn't make a change to your smart contract and you want to force a new contract to be deployed, you can do a yarn deploy -- reset, and it will just give you a brand new version of the contract. So you can keep doing that over and over and over again. But we just made that simple change, and we can see now we have a new variable. We have an owner variable called address, right? So what could we do with that? Well, we could do something like a require statement, right? We could say require that the message, message.sender, which is the global variable, is equal to owner, otherwise you are not the owner, like this, boom, right? And that, and let's do another deploy. So what we can do now is we can open up a new incognito window, right? We can go to our app again, which is on localhost port 3000, and we can see now that we have a copy of the app on both ones. We have two different accounts. We got the account that is the owner, which is right here. And then we got this kind of purple blocky dude right here. So they've got to grab some funds to this kind of another account. And then I can come over here and say, all right, well, let's make a change. This is so cool, and hit send. And it's going to tell me I'm not the owner. Even though I had some money, I want to interact with that contract. I've done some kind of level of access control using that require statement and defining the variable. That's not the proper way to do access control, so let's change that. Let's actually do it like this. Let's get rid of this variable, and let's do what's called inheritance instead. So you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm toying, I'm messing around, setting some variables, testing to make sure that my functions are working. Now I'm gonna do what's called inheritance. I'm gonna inherit Open Zeppelin's copy of what's called ownable. Ownable is kind of like a set way to do access control. It's a smart contract that was designed, or created, I should say, by Open Zeppelin. It's kind of like the standard de facto way that you do access control. So I'm importing that. Then I can do your contract is ownable, like this, inherit from that other smart contract. And then what I can do is I can require instead something like this, only owner. So that's a function, that's a modifier, it's called a modifier. So I'm grabbing the modifier from the ownable smart contract, and I'm inheriting the smart contract. So that way I don't have to set that hard-coded, right? But if we do that, let's go ahead and try to do that deploy. Do another deploy. Okay, so what's different here? Well, if you look closely, the owner does not match my burner wallet. The reason why is because Scaffold ETH utilizes hard hat. Hard hat by default uses the very first account of toy ether that it has for it to deploy. It's called the deployer. So it's the first account. So right now we have a smart contract that we have no control over. So the next part that you get into as you start building around Scaffold ETH is you'll find this deploy folder, right? And inside that deploy folder, what's really important in here is you get an instance of the contract, right? And you do the deploy here. So you can do things like pass arguments. Let's say you wanted to pass a supply or a variable or something like that. You could do that and pass those across in the constructor. But most importantly, we can do what's called a transfer. So it's already here. We can just paste it in. And what we can do is grab the address again, and then we can paste it in, which I think this time you have to actually put it in quotes. Let's see if that works. So One additional function that you get when you inherit ownable is called the transfer ownership function. So all we're doing is getting a copy of the smart contract as we're deploying it. And then when we do that, it's called the copy of the contract is your contract. Then we're calling that transfer ownership function and transferring it to this address. So we can say save that and then redeploy again. And let's see if that worked. The deploy worked. It transferred it, hopefully, and it did. So you can see now that we deployed the smart contract with hard hat, but then we took control of it with our, because we have this kind of like identity, right, in our browser. If you were deploying to like a test net or like a main net, you wouldn't probably use the burner wallet. You'd use like MetaMask or some other kind of a wallet to kind of take ownership, but you get the idea. So we're kind of going through and we're doing these tests. Let's do some more stuff. Let's have some fun here. So we've already transferred the ownership. We can do the access control, but it's not a very interesting, this isn't a very interesting smart contract. Like just for one person to change a purpose, it's kind of centralized, right? So let's remove that and let's just let anyone call that function. But what we can do instead is we can do a require statement, okay? So, Solidity has these global variables. One of them is message sender, which is the person that's calling the transaction. But you also have message.value, right? So we could say that the message.value needs to equal some new variable that we're going to create called price and say not enough money. Otherwise, if they don't send the value, then we'll say not enough value, okay? So then we could come up here, create a new variable. We could do uint public price equal, and then we'll do 0.001 ether like that. So if you start deploying and building smart contracts, you'll learn that everything you do is in ether or it's in Wei. And most of the time, everything that you do in your application, you have to kind of like calculate how much Wei is how much ether. But you can hard code the ether here, or you could hard code it as just Wei. We're just going to make it easy on us, and we're just going to say ether, so 0.001 ether. So we'll save that, and let's deploy it, and let's see if it works. Oh, so we also have to make this payable as well, I believe. See if that works. There we go. So I always do that. I always forget to make the function payable. So we've made this function now able to accept value, right? We've required that someone that wants to interact with this particular function, they can come in here and they can change it if they want, but they'll have to pay a price. So this is the Wei that I told you about. So 0.001 ether is equal to this much Wei, right? So if I want to come down here and I want to change it to ETHMexico again, you'll see that the front end's automatically adapted, and now it knows that, hey, we got to send the value with the actual purpose. So we can say like ETHMexico, and we could, now there's this cool thing, I could just copy paste the thing because I know what it is here, right? Like this. Or you could type it in 0.001 ether with this little green button. It's kind of a cool tool, and it will just do it for you. So if you're just kind of thinking about ether, you can just boom. Obviously in your UI, you wouldn't want the user to have to type in 10000, right? But let's do it. Did it work? It did. If we wanted to change it again, and we didn't put enough, let's say we sent 999 and test, send, not enough value. Right? So now we've created this kind of like cool functionality. And what's happened? Well, our smart contract has some value, right? Now we're able to actually like use the smart contract as a bank. We haven't created any way to withdraw the money, so it's a little bit of a black hole right now because there's no withdraw function, but you guys get the idea. But we could do something else cool. We could like say, well, let's require the value, but then let's change the value after someone submits it. So we could do something like price just with one change, price equal price times 101 divided by 100. See if that works. I think that should work. So basically we're going to increment it by 1% every time someone goes through and calls the function successfully. So now if I come in here and say, well, let's change it to Scaffold ETH, whatever, Scaffold ETH. And let's call the right amount that we need, paste it in there, send, boom. So what's happened? Well, we've got a new price. we can see that it's incremented. So with just one little small change, we're able to completely change the behavior of the smart contract. But you can see what we're doing here is we're going through and we're doing things, and testing out. So if you're getting started with Scaffold ETH, well, first of all, it's going to be easy to just like get all your teammates set up, because you can just be like, go check out this version, check out this branch, and you're going to be up and running, right? Then it's really easy to kind of start testing, and maybe one person's in charge of certain functions, and then you guys could just share your code and distribute and drop it into the branch as you need it. So if you want to learn more, I would suggest going through Solidity by example, coming through here and kind of like learn how the variables work, right? Like learn what the different kind of variables are, local versus state versus global, and actually like come over here and put them in here, right? And copy paste them into your smart contract and test from there. Another cool thing is, well, first of all, the base version of Scaffold ETH is just the start, actually. After you kind of get up and running and with the basic version, and you want to kind of venture out into like doing more advanced things, like you've started building and learn how Solidity works, you might want to do something like an NFT, right? You might want to build an NFT. So if you go to the base version of Scaffold ETH, I should say the base path for the GitHub, you'll notice there's this challenges directory. I talked about it earlier. It's the speedrun Ethereum challenges. All of the challenges have their own repository that you can basically build off of. And like a good example is the very first one, which is the simple NFT example. It's basically just a ERC 721 smart contract, and it already has a lot of functionality to create NFTs. So let's spin that up real quick and show how easy it is. So I shut down my other instance, and I've already gone ahead and checked out this version for you guys. So you guys don't have to wait for the yarn install because it takes a while, especially if you're on bad internet connection. But let's just make sure. Boom, everything's good. We can also do git branch just to make sure that we're in the right branch. So I'm in the challenge 0 simple NFT branch. Same thing goes for, just real quick, let me show you real quick. If you're in the basic Scaffold ETH directory and you go here, you can do a search for all the different branches here, right? So like if you say NFT, there's a simple NFT with Next.js. There's a ticket NFT. There's also like, let's see, if we just do ERC 1155, there's an 1155 there. So my point is if you're going to get started on a project that's going to use like a certain starting point, just build off of that branch, and you don't have to waste all your time like importing whatever version of OpenZeppelin and testing. It's going to be ready to go, and you can build from there. That's why Scaffold ETH is here for you, right? So I've already done the checkout. We did the yarn install. Let's do the yarn chain. And we'll do the yarn start. And we'll do yarn deploy. And we're going to have to give it a second, but that's okay. Let it deploy. So it's going to let us deploy even though React's not up. And then now let's open up this version of the code. And then I do want to show a couple other things. So first of all, let's look at the contract. The contract is, sorry, let me close all these other ones. I was obviously in there earlier. So the contract's a lot different. It's not just the hello world, right, purpose. It's an ERC 721, pretty much Turing complete, ready to go to build your smart contract off. It has all the functionality to mint an item. It has the functionality for the URI. It also has some cool stuff where you can, it just automatically allow you to upload metadata to in the UI. I'll show you in a second. But the whole point is it's ready to go. So if you're building an NFT project, you would start here. And then I want to show real quickly before the app comes up is the React app. So inside the source directory, there's the app.jsx folder, which is like that main application. It's called the Scaffold ETH app, right? But inside of views is where you'll edit like other things like actually you won't go into the example UI, you'll go into index.js, I believe. Well, this version doesn't have like a home directory, so, but on the other version, there will be a home directory for you. I can just show it real quick. Yeah, here. So if we go to React, source, views, home. So this is where you'll kind of build out your app, right? And these are all those examples that we saw in the UI. So anyways, React is a whole nother beast, but we're not going to go too much into that. But let's see if the UI showed up, and it did. Let's close this in. We can keep that open, actually. So now we'll notice that we have this Your Collectibles tab, right? So I got 3 minutes. So what's cool is we can just grab some funds, mint an NFT. And just like that, we got an NFT, and it's this cool little buffalo that Austin Griffith colored at home. So yeah, basically, then I can come over here, grab this address, transfer, come over here, refresh. And now I got the buffalo on the other account. So you can see you automatically have this ability to create NFTs, mint them around, move them around. The metadata for all of this is editable. So you can like change the image, you can change the URI. It doesn't have to be a bison. There's a bunch of different ones. We can actually mint some more, see what else is cool. It's gonna see what other cool NFTs I'm gonna create. Oh, zebra, cool. What's next? So yeah, you get the idea. And this is all coming from like I think a JSON file that's kind of in there. So you can edit that and build as many kind of layers to that NFT as you want to. But yeah, start with this branch and then you'll be good to go. So that's pretty much my demo pretty much here. Does anyone have any questions? I got enough time for like 2 minutes for a question. That'd be cool if you had a question. Someone? Huh? Anyone? Anyone? The which one? Rinkeby? Oh yeah, so everything we're doing here is localhost. That's a good question. So you could totally ship this to a testnet. It's just a matter of changing a few variables inside of the source files. So one is inside of the app.jsx file. You just have to change the network to whatever network you want. So it'll be like network.localhost. We can actually look at it real quick. So if we go to views, let me grab the other one because this one's. So we can go to home, and then we can go to app.jsx, and we can see here that we have the network, localhost. So we could just change that to Rinkeby if we want, right? And then that app is pointing at Rinkeby. Same thing goes for the deployment. You can change it in the deploy as well. So like if you come up here and we say in the deployment, I'm trying to remember where it is, but it's inside the hard hat config. So you can do it either by specifying a -- network flag when you deploy, or you can just come in here and change this to Rinkeby like that. And then that'll deploy to Rinkeby. So the browser, not speedrun Ethereum, but the burner wallet. So it's also a, so the question was, we didn't have to use MetaMask. Why is that? That's because Scaffold ETH uses a burner wallet functionality that's also available as a separate source code inside of this repositories folder, and it's just a burner wallet. I'm trying to think where it is. That's the Punk wallet. I know it's in here somewhere, but it's basically a burner wallet functionality that comes with Scaffold ETH. Yeah, so that way you don't have to worry about nonces or anything like that or transaction problems. Yeah. Yeah, all the dependencies are going to automatically be deployed, but they're available in the package JSON. You can see like what needs to be installed, but it'll do it for you. So, but you just need to have GitHub, React, Node.js, Git, and Yarn, and then you'll be good. Thank you guys. Good luck hacking.